Well, let's talk about DMTx then. So what is it? Like, give us the rundown of what this thing is. What's the molecule? What puts the X on the end of it? Yeah.
Yeah, all the things. So yeah, I mean, it stands for extended state DMT, or target controlled IV infusion of dimethyltryptamine. So Andrew Gallimore coined the phrase DMTx, the X meaning extended state. Just a lot easier to say than all the other words. But, to be specific, we are talking about NN-dimethyltryptamine and not 5-methoxy DMT. I think that's important to point out just because there's a lot of traction with 5-MeO these days, and we get asked that question a lot, actually. Are we prolong injecting 5-MeO? And that's not what we're doing. We are working with NN-dimethyltryptamine.
Can you talk a little bit about the differences there and why? I assume most people who are tuning into an interview about DMTx have some working knowledge of the difference between NN-DMT and 5-methoxy DMT. But can you give us just like a quick rundown of why the characterization of these being different is important?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think number one is just the experience is very different. NN is incredibly visual, immersive in the experience, and 5-methoxy is kind of what people proclaim that God molecule, and being wrapped in just the bright white light, not very visual. But on the molecular aspect, if you looked at the molecule, NN just does not have that 5-methoxy group attached to that position on the indole ring. So huge difference molecularly, as well as experientially, of the experience of that molecule.
Yeah. And there's also still some question about safety of continuous infusion with 5-MeO. NN has already been established through previous studies to be safe for extended infusion. And I know that there's some research being done on 5, but I don't think that safety has been established yet. So
yeah,
I can't work with that molecule yet.
Mm-hmm. And so what does this extended state process entail? Like what's happening? How do you make this extended state? Because from what I understand, DMT is very rapidly metabolized upon consuming it, so much so that the only way is to have an experience with DMT is to either smoke it or intravenously inject it, or to combine it with other chemicals that change its metabolism, like what's done with ayahuasca. So what is it that's happening? What is this process that allows the DMT to become extended state DMT?
Well, we don't have the constraints of working with an MAOI. So when DMT is made into an intravenous stable solution, we can hook it up to an anesthetic pump and through an IV maintain a level that is right for the participant. And so it's rapidly metabolized, but through the continuous infusion, we can maintain whatever state they would like to be at.
Yeah, so we're essentially offsetting the body's metabolism. So we're infusing a certain amount of DMT per minute to basically offset the body's metabolism to stay in a stable state within the DMT experience. And that's what we do with that anesthetic pump.
And can you tell me a little more about what this anesthetic pump is and where it comes from as a technology?
It comes from hospitals. It's just basically a standard hospital anesthetic pump that holds a large syringe, and we use, hospital grade microtubing and run that into an IV. So it's readily available technology. And, we just use that to adjust the basal rate, as well as administer boluses throughout the experience and monitor that continuous infusion.
Basal is like this, the level people are at, and bolus is just
Yeah,
like the more. Is that right?
Yes. Correct. Yeah, the basal rate would be like the continuous infusion rate, whereas a bolus would be like a quick injection, if you will, a quick increase in flow to produce like you know a more intense effect.
And so what kind of experiences are people having here? Like, well, I guess, okay, maybe that's not the right question yet. So you're saying like you can get someone into the state and you can keep them there and you can modify their levels. So like how long do people stay in? Are we talking 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 hours?
Yeah, kind of all over the place. But yeah, as little as 30 minutes and as long as 5 hours is our longest experience that we've run so far. Yeah. So, I mean, to kind of back up a little bit, how that looks is, yeah, they get an entry bolus injection, so an accelerated amount of DMT to go into the state. And that looks different for every person. So, one thing that we do with each individual is we individualize the experience for them. So, we have pretty in depth conversations with each participant of kind of where do they want to go. And through, well, we've done 50 sessions now, that experience and taking data points on that, we can pretty accurately get somebody where at least they think they want to go and adjust it as the experience goes. So we give them an initial bolus, and then we set a certain flow rate of milligrams a minute of DMT to sustain them there. And then with that anesthetic pump, we can adjust the amount of DMT flowing into them to really like target a comfortable DMT experience for them.
And so how deep are people just like picking a level and they're like, yeah, I want to just look around and have everything look like I'm seeing the like the fractal organization of the molecular expression of life around me, or are they like, oh, I'm looking to get to to get to Sirius. I'm on my way to the Pleiadians. I'm looking to go as deep as possible. Like,
Yeah.
what are people like? What depth are people going, and are they staying in that depth the whole time? Do people ride it like a roller coaster? Like what do people looking for in that kind of thing?
I mean, all of the above. Yeah, we're seeing people are coming in with different levels of experience, different expectations, and different anxiety levels. And so we're seeing people who are, wanting a lower state, maybe just some really nice visuals and a body high, to people who want to blast off and go as deep as they can.
Yeah.
And everything in between. And yes, within the experience, once they sort of reach what we consider cruising altitude, a level where they're comfortable and can self-regulate and take a minute to breathe and look around, then from there we can also give them additional boluses to give them like a wave to ride a little bit deeper, or we can move them up in the state or back down to a more comfortable level. So we're seeing everything as far as desired effects go.
Yeah. And I mean, to answer your question directly, yes. I mean, some people we put in the state and they stay there the entire duration of their experience. Other times it does look more like a roller coaster, and that can be for many different variables. Somebody might have to go to the bathroom, so we can bring them down and then put them back into the space. So sometimes they just need a little break from such a peak experience. So we can bring them down to a very low level for 20, 30 minutes, have something to eat, take a drink, and then we can pop them back into the state. So it kind of looks really however people would like it to look.
Are people like I'm curious, like for myself, if I imagine being in like the depth of intensity as far as I've gone with DMT, like to that peak of it, I can't imagine I'd be able to say, oh, can I come down a bit? I need to go to the bathroom. So like, how are people communicating in and out of? I guess I could say that, but I don't know if objectively I would be saying intelligible words, right? So
Yeah.
how do people communicate their needs during these sessions?
Yeah. I mean, they just are able to speak. That's the one unique thing about IV administration. I think what we're finding is differently than smoking. It's very smooth. So even though you're at that crazy depth that people have experienced through smoking, what happens is that jolting kind of like confusing, enveloped experience settles out to where now you are able to actually like dissociate from that deep experience and say, hey, I need a break.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing, actually, that dual agency, as we call it, that you can be as far as people have ever experienced on DMT and still be able to check back in with us.
Wow. And what is you said your longest session has been 5 hours. What was the longest session you've done where what was the longest length of time someone has been at? Like, I assume there's a peak level after which point they dissociate or something, like they would forget the experience. Like, A, is that true? B, what is the longest amount of time someone has stayed in at like peak administration dosage?
A couple of hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So like 2 hours for sure. I was looking back at my notes and yeah, about 2 hours that like shot them in and they stayed there for that long. Yeah.
And that's looking at objective dosing. But so much of this is subjective. And we've had people that have been at surprisingly low infusion rates that are describing, an immersive world that might sound like a breakthrough state. So a lot of this is difficult to quantify.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify the subjective experience that somebody's having. Yeah. And it doesn't seem that dose is 100% related to that. Somebody can just be more affected by a lower dose than others.
Yeah, sometimes less is more, but we
Yeah.
have had some people who have requested very high doses and been able to maintain apparently very deep levels.
Yeah, and we've never reached that amnesia level with somebody. It does seem to be a pretty safe molecule, and like looking at dosage wise, like what Rick Strassman kind of claimed as amnesia level. I mean, you're getting up into like 0.7, 0.8 milligram a kilogram level. I mean, for most of it, that would be like 100 milligrams of DMT all at once. Like we're just not reaching those levels. I mean, one, for safety, but secondly, like there's just no need to go that high with anybody. You can have
And to
incredibly
clarify, like
large.
average smoking for like a full breakthrough would be somewhere between like 30 and 50 milligrams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're talking more than double. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in the IV, for typically like a 70, kilogram person or something like that is around 25 milligrams for that full breakthrough dosage. So it's a little bit less than smoking, but similar. Yeah.
It makes sense. It's going straight through the main line.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, much greater bioavailability there.
Yeah.
Mhm.